Hello friends, this is Tisha from Meadows and Mortar by Tisha, and today I'm going to be lightening up this old bookcase. Now this is for a client. She was very specific about what she wanted. As you saw in that beginning photo, she showed me a photo from Pinterest and she was like, is there any way that we can make this around this color? Now I knew from looking at her photos of this bookshelf that not all of it was real wood, but we would try to do what we could with what we had. So the first thing that I did is I began to strip everything down, and then I came in with my Surf Prep sander, and then I sanded everything with a 100 grit and then a 120 grit, and then I went in with a 180 grit. And that just got everything nice and smooth for me. It got everything in a nice surface level for me to be able to work with. Now, as with most of these mass-produced pieces like this, I knew that I was going to be working with different types of wood. I figured that the majority of it would be plywood, which it was once that I got it sanded down, but most of it was a pretty plywood. It wasn't really ugly pieces or anything that couldn't be stained. So right here, I put the squishy foam on my Surf Prep sander just so I could get down into those little grooves and stuff a little bit better. You can use other kinds of squishy abrasives other than the Surf Prep, but I just have a Surf Prep sander, so I use their abrasives for it. Then I'm going to come in with Minwax Color Wash. So you can see whenever I spray water all over this how orange the piece gets, and like I said, she was very specific that she wanted this to be that lighter kind of color. So this Minwax Color Wash, you can see it goes on like an opaque white, and you just put it on there and then you wipe it back off, and then it's going to leave everything a little bit lighter. The thing with this color wash is you need to work in small sections. If you work in sections that are too big, it'll dry, and it'll dry really streaky. So I do that top section and then I spray it with a little bit of water so it's easier for me to wipe back some of the excess on there. You want to make sure that you're wiping with the wood grain. You don't want to go all crazy on there and wipe in a bunch of different directions, because then you're going to have lines going in different directions. So try to do it with the wood grain as much as possible. Just make sure that you're wiping off the excess, because if you leave too much, then it's going to look really streaky and it's not going to look like a nice finished product. Now, I bought this Minwax Color Wash years ago, and I just happened to see it the other day in my garage, and I was like, oh, I need to use that stuff. So that's the reason I'm using this. But the majority of the time, what I would do is I would take a paint, just the paint of your choice, and mix it 50-50 of a light white or a cream colored paint, mix it with water, stir it up really well, and then I would use that as a paint wash on here instead of using this color wash. But it's pretty much the same thing. I just figured I needed to use what I already had before this container went bad. If you decide not to mix your own and you want to buy the Minwax Color Wash, you can get it at Lowe's. I've seen it at Walmart before. I'm sure that you can also buy it on Amazon. But you just wipe it on and then you wipe the excess back off, just like you would with any sort of stain. And this was a little hard to do to get good even coverage where it has all these details in it, where it has the slats going up and down plus the details going from left to right also. So it took a little bit of finagling to get that where I needed it to be. You know, in a perfect world, I wouldn't have all those details and it would just be one direction that I have to wipe in. But I think that it turned out pretty in the end. And you don't have to moisten that with water first, but I like to, because I feel like it gives me a more even coverage. You could use a pre-stain conditioner if you'd like to, but I feel like the water with this color wash, it works just fine. I also feel like it helps it move a little bit better. It glides along the surface easier if it's wet first, but that's completely personal preference. You don't have to do that if you don't want to. Now, remember what I said about not all of this being wood. There was some of it that had that plasticky laminate type stuff on it, like the top part of the bottom section. I knew that that was plastic, and then the back part where the bookshelf section is, that was also plastic. So I come in with Paint Couture's Sure Prep Bonding Primer. You want to make sure that you're using a bonding primer for this, because not just any primer will work. You want something that's going to adhere really well to a slick, shiny surface, and that's exactly what this does. So this bonding primer, you can get it in gray or white. I just happen to have the white that was already open, so that's what I go with. You don't want to use a super good brush whenever you're using these bonding primers. Even though this is a water-based primer and it does clean up with soap and water really well, I do find that it's a little bit harder on my bristles. So I want to use a good quality brush, but I want it to be one of my older good quality brushes that I'm using that I dedicate typically just for primer. But that's just my personal preference. So I come in with that bonding primer. I do one thin coat over it, I'll let it dry, then I come in with another thin coat, and then I'll let that dry overnight. Now that dry time is going to be crucial for how well that it adheres to the substrate that you're trying to paint on. So make sure that you're giving that a nice good dry time. I like to wait 24 hours after I do it. I think that you can wait just 12 though. So then I come in with Paint Couture in the color Candlelight. Now this is just a nice creamy off-white color. She said that she wanted me to use either an off-white or a really light gray for the contrast color because she wanted it to match with the lightness that we were going to be doing, but she knew that we couldn't stain it the same color. So I thought that this Candlelight would be perfect. Now this is in the mineral paint. And so for the mineral paint, you don't have to use a top coat on it. It has a built-in blocking primer and a built-in top coat to it. But because this is going to be a functional piece that she's going to be like setting stuff on, she may be writing on it, whatever she needs to do, I'm wanting to make sure that I get really, really good durability out of it. So here in just a few minutes, you'll see me put a top coat on this. But if it's a piece that's not going to be getting super heavy use, you don't have to use a top coat on this. Lots of people don't. And some people, even if it is a heavy use item, they still don't put a top coat on it because it is pretty durable. But I would rather be safe than sorry, so that's why I do what I do. You know, I would rather spend more money in product and make sure that my clients are satisfied and they come back for more. But I do know, you know, if you don't decide to put a top coat on it, you'll be fine most likely. But here I am coming in with my top coat. I come in with Paint Couture's Extreme Guard, and I'm pretty sure that I used flat on this one. And with Extreme Guard, it is very, very durable. It has a beautiful sheen to it. I really, really do like this stuff. It self-levels beautifully. You don't have to do a whole lot of work with it. Now, one thing that I do suggest is using a good quality synthetic brush. Paint Couture makes excellent brushes that are good quality synthetic ones. Klingon brushes make excellent quality synthetic brushes. If you're wanting a hardware store kind, I would suggest using the zebra brushes. You can get those at Lowe's. I'm not sure if Walmart carries them or not, but I do know that Lowe's carries them. And if you would like to try any of the Paint Couture products or Klingon products that I have used in this video, then I will put a link in the description box and you can go straight to those. It'll go to the All Paint Products website, and that is no extra cost to you. If you decide to use my link, it just lets Paint Couture know that you used my link to buy their products, and they just give me a little bit of a thank you for that. So if you haven't already, then I just want to ask you to like this video and subscribe to my channel. I will be doing lots more tutorials. It may be furniture, it may be home decor. You never know what you're going to see with me. It's just whatever I'm in the mood for or whatever a client asks me to do. And I'm always up for learning. So if you ever see anything in my videos and you don't agree with it, or you think that you would have done something differently, let me know. I mean, in a respectful way. Don't be a douchebag or anything, but in a respectful way, because I am always up for learning new things and learning new products and new techniques. So that paint wash, it made everything lighter, but I looked back at the photo that she gave me and it had a little more warmth to it than what I was getting with just that paint wash by itself. So I come in with Paint Couture's Glaze in the color light brown sugar, and I'm just going over everything again, and I'm just putting a nice even coat on it, and then I'll wipe off the excess. Now the cool thing about this glaze is it is also a stain, so you can use this as just a glaze to kind of enhance the details on a project, or you can use it as a semi gel stain. So that's a stain that you can brush on, wipe off the excess of it. It's going to give you more coverage than just a penetrating stain, but it's not going to give you as much of an opaque look as like a regular gel stain would. And this stuff is buildable. If you want it to be darker, if you want it to be more opaque, then you can just keep adding layers onto it once that it dries. Now with any gel stain, even this kind right here, I would suggest waiting 24 hours in between each application after you wipe the excess off of it. Now my client didn't say anything about wanting to change the hardware, so I just cleaned her hardware with some vinegar and water and a scrub brush, and then I come in with some aged brass gilding wax. This is from Redesign with Prima. This is probably one of my most used gilding waxes because it's not really gold, but it does give a nice shimmer to it. And you just want to put a nice even coat all over the hardware. Then I like to let it sit there and dry for about an hour or so, and then I come in with a clean dry cloth, and then I just buff the excess off of it, and it gives it a beautiful sheen and a very pretty color. And sometimes this is all that you need. You can just update your hardware. Now whenever you're looking at hinges, this is beautiful for that because this is a wax, so it's going to help it glide a little bit better. It's not going to gunk it up like if you were using spray paint or something like that. This is a self-sealing product, so after about 30 days, it completely self-seals and there's no need for a top coat or anything. And here is the final product. It is not that really dark 1980s color anymore. This is much more modern, and I think that my client is really going to like this. I think this is going to fit her area a little bit better, and I will again show you guys that before picture of what she wanted it to look like, and I think that we nailed it, guys. And thank you guys so much for watching, and I can't wait to see you guys next time. And if you have any questions, just leave them down below and I'll try to get back to you as quick as possible. Thanks, guys.